You've selected a show from the Podcast Jukebox, a DIY podcast network.
It's Will Shawn Podcast. The internet cried out for 2 more blowhards, and they courageously answered that call. Armed with the weapon of wit, each week they're joined by guests to discuss movies, television, pop culture, and anything else that's pissing them off. Take it away, boys.
I'm Will Link.
And I'm Sean David.
And this is Will Shawn Podcast?
From the 50-yard line of the big game. How you doing, Will?
Is that where we are right now?
Well, that's where we're sitting. We got really good seats. It's very cold in Minnesota right now.
So I've written a book that I'm trying to get published. So I've been talking to an editor.
Okay.
Who's going to work with me on some stuff with it. I think this is good. I think this is very positive. Mm-hmm. I have to pay this person.
Okay.
I'm fine with all of this. Except here's the thing. We talked for like an hour on the phone. We went over a bunch of stuff. She sent me all this material. I feel good about everything. And I said, great, let's do it. How do I pay you? And I have not heard from her since, which I find very vexing because I want to give her money and she disappeared. And now I don't know what to do.
Just assume that she'll accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, or the cryptocurrency of your choosing.
I gotta get her to respond at some point.
Have you submitted? But she has the material.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe after the hour conversation, she decides she didn't want to work with you.
She sent me the follow-up emails afterwards.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound good. This book is never getting published.
Oh, that's really sad. What's going on in the World of Will Shawn Podcast?
I want to thank all listeners for listening. Anyone who found us through the Podcast Jukebox Network.
Or the Jukebox Podcast Network.
They know what I was testing you, see if you were paying attention. Please make sure that you like us on Facebook, or following us on Twitter, or subscribe to us, most importantly on iTunes or Stitcher. Leave us a star rating, leave us a review. That way other people can find this lovely, lovely show. And also want to once again mention that former guests of the show, Jake Weissman and Mac and Inga Bretson, have been all over the place because their new show, Corporate, has premiered and has had 4 episodes on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
So good for them.
The reviews are in, and they love it.
People love it. It's a funny show. If you took The Office and just made it dark, drab, and suicidal, it's like the bizarro version of Better Off Ted. And
also other former guests, Justin Marks, his new show,
Counterpoint, on Starz, also getting excellent reviews, starting J.K. Simmons, which I always want to say J.K. Rowling, but that would be a very different show.
I'm going to keep telling you to push Justin's show just so I hear you make that mistake eventually.
Over. Yes.
And who is our sponsor this week?
Memos, the word you never really thought about, but now really, really hate. Thanks, Trump.
Let me say something about this memo. I don't even I see so many news stories, and this isn't a topic.
And you're a junkie.
I watch a lot of news. I don't understand what this memo is. I don't understand why it means anything. I don't understand anything about it.
You'll be hearing a lot about it, though.
Okay.
It's very important to the safety of our country.
On the show this week, the Grammys happened. It's the award show that we usually pay the least amount of attention to on this show because we're movie people, but I think you have a hot take about it. We will discuss.
Yes, although my take may have cooled since then.
Yeah, well, it was pretty hot when you were texting me during the Grammys. We will discuss Toys R Us. Remember, we were all Toys R Us kids? It was the whole commercial.
Jeffrey the Giraffe.
Anyway, they're closing down a ton of stores. And it made me think that it's sad. Like, is the toy store going to be like the bookstore, a thing of the past? We will discuss. And everybody's got the flu. And I've got some choice words, I guess, for the flu. We will discuss. But first, we are very excited to have with us. She does improv. She's an actress. She's a motorcyclist. Monique Filips.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We always like to begin with the guest's origin story. So where are you from originally?
I'm a Southern California native, but I actually grew up in Norco. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
That is like in the Central Valley?
No, it's in Riverside County.
Okay.
So, but it's very similar to the Central Valley.
What is it?
It's a horse community. So we don't have sidewalks. We have horse trails. And
What?
So I grew up with a half an acre backyard, and like everybody around me had horses and chickens and goats. So I thought I grew up in the country. But I was sadly mistaken once I met my husband, who's from Nebraska.
And is that
And
real country?
I discovered what the real country is and what the middle of nowhere really is.
Wait, so a horse community? Did you have a horse?
I think I was the only child in Norco that did not have a horse.
That's kind of
My
sad.
parents
yeah.
were brutal.
Yeah.
They were really good and consistent with we can't afford that.
It's like every little girl wants a pony.
Yes.
And you lived in a land where every
Yes.
little girl had a pony except you.
My heart was broken for years.
I'm fascinated by the phrase horse community.
Yes.
It sounds like the Dothraki or something. It sounds
Like
that's
people of
what
the
it-
plains.
Yes.
Like, oh, she's one of the horse
That where you
people.
just all year round just follow the herd, you know?
So in Norco, at the stoplights, which we have a few stoplights, there's 2 buttons to push the crosswalk light. There's one for pedestrian height, and there's one up higher if you're on a horse. Yes.
That's amazing.
And the Jack in the Box by my house, so there, at the corner, has a hitching post, so you can tie your horse up and go into.
Can you take
Jack
the
in
horse through
Box.
the horse through?
I think
'Cause
some people do.
We did a story a little while back in one of our weird topics where someone like rode a horse through a Taco Bell drive-through, but then like I think something happened to the poor horse, like it got stuck in a ditch and the guy abandoned it. And
He was drunk. It was
He
like
was drunk on a horse.
The horse was drunk, or the guy
no,
was
the
drunk?
guy was drunk.
Is there? I can't believe we're talking so much about this, but is there? I mean, can you get like a DUI on a horse? Like, can you be
Ooh,
riding
that's a
under
great
the
question.
Legally, you
influence?
can.
Probably, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's happened. Yeah.
What do they do though? Do they take away your?
Yeah, they impounded.
They impound your horse.
Yeah, they put a low jack on the horse.
That's crazy. Okay, so you grew up in a horse community, but eventually you left that horse community.
Yes.
You rode west.
Yes. I actually, what's funny is I actually did live in the Central Valley for 4 years.
Okay.
Because my dad got transferred. But so I went to college at UC Riverside, and then eventually I moved out closer to Los Angeles for work.
So you, when did you get into acting? When did you decide that was something you wanted to?
I did what I think a lot of kids do in junior high and high school. I was in the school plays and musicals, but back then I didn't think of it as a career, or I wasn't the star of the show. I was always in the choir, so
Okay.
I was the people in the back singing, or just the people wandering around to fill the stage. But about 10 years ago, my initial goal was to do modeling and be like the JCPenney mom in the catalog, wearing the mom jeans or whatever.
And we should tell our listeners that you're very tall. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So modeling seems like a natural fit.
Yeah. So I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you're really tall and you're pretty. You should model." And I was like, I just thought it was kind of, they were being nice, and then after a while, I was like, well, let me give it a try. And to be honest with you, I started very late. I was already, was I 34? I think I was like 34, 35, which is very late to start in an acting or modeling career. But my daughter and I, on our first audition ever, booked a national commercial.
Oh wow!
Well, that's how that goes, right? That's how those things.
Yes, it's that stereotypical.
But together or separately?
Together in the same commercial.
Is that something that would be like a casting director would be interested in, like a mother and daughter?
Yes, they were specifically looking for a mother-daughter. It was a commercial for contact lenses.
Okay.
I wore contact lenses, and I was the right age. She was the right age.
Okay.
It just the planets kind of aligned. I called it our happy accident
Oh, wow.
in terms of thrusting us into this career.
So this was a big commercial.
Yeah.
It was a national commercial.
And it ran for almost a year.
So I've seen this commercial.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like I said, it was about 10 years ago when lightning struck. So we
Back when people watched commercials.
yes, yeah,
So
before
it was good.
TiVo and before everybody skipped all the commercials.
Well, now they're back
wow.
again every time you watch a YouTube
Yeah.
ad or a.
So after that, so you were like, oh, piece of cake.
I know. I was like,
Everyone was right. I should have done this.
I had never heard of residuals, and these checks just kept coming. And I said, well, maybe I should take a class and take this seriously.
So that was that then the next step?
Yes. Yeah. So I started taking some commercial classes, some improv, acting classes, and just thought, I'll take it a little more seriously. At times I still think of it as a hobby, but I do that more than my regular job now. So
now, did your daughter continue on that path, or she was like,
she
I'm
did.
cool?
Her and I were in 2 commercials together, and she did a couple on her own. But as she got older, it was less about just looking cute, and they had to talk more, and she had to pay attention. And so she kind of was like,
She's like, I got my money in my Coogan account. I'm good.
Exactly. She's like, college is paid for. I don't have to do this anymore.
But that's great. Like, I don't see what's. I mean, every parent should I
get a lot of people asking me questions about it. Oh, how do I do it? How to get my kid in it? And I tell them, what? When they're little, go for it. Get them in a few commercials. Put the money in the bank, and then get out.
Right.
Because and I hate to bring up Britney Spears or any of the child stars that have had tough times, but that's what you don't want to happen. So you just make the money for college, put it in the bank, and get out.
Well, you hear the ones that seem to get through that phase of their life. You always hear it's a combination of parents had their heads screwed on straight, and they usually, like in a Natalie Portman or like Claire Danes, they took they went to college, they took some time off,
a little bit of a break.
Well,
because then it seems like that's much more doing it on their own terms,
and they're doing it because it's something they want to do.
Yeah, I guess the key to all this is never force your child. If the child is losing interest in it, don't be like, get out there. Be like, okay, go be a child.
Yeah, and I've worked with kids that on set that clearly did not want to be there, and they were trouble. The director, really had to work with them, and I was like, get this kid out of here. Yeah. And
with these commercials or
for commercials, and you can, and then sometimes you meet the parents and you're like, now I get it, and you're like, because this kid clearly doesn't want to do this, and the parent, it's like the parent is living vicariously through the child.
Why does anyone cast a kid who doesn't want to do it though? Wouldn't that come out in the?
That kid can hit its mark and say the line.
Okay, so then you started taking classes. And did you find that, well, obviously, I'm assuming since you kept doing it, you found that very beneficial to this?
Yes, yeah. And I also just found that I loved doing all the improv classes, learning and meeting different people. It's amazing all the different types of people you meet in those classes that have moved from all over the country to try their luck at this crazy thing called Hollywood. And, some of them are like 19 years old, and they've literally driven across the country in their clunker to, live in this shitty apartment with other people that they didn't know. And to, and the stereotypical, I'm a bartender at night or a waitress, so that they can audition. I know a
lot of those.
Yeah, so they can audition during the day. And I tell you, it takes a lot of guts. I am a weird example of this, of an actress in this industry, because I started so late. And I don't think I would have had the guts to do that at age 19.
Do you, let me ask you this then, because you got a whole bunch of 19-year-olds coming in, and like you said, you're starting at like 34. Were you in those classes, like, I don't want to say have trouble fitting in, but like, was there a little bit like, you know what I'm asking?
I know. So every class has like a rainbow of characters. There's, I was the mom. Excuse me. I was the mom with 2 kids that was very motherly. Then there was always 1 or 2 older people, like the grandma type figure who was they had already retired and they were doing this for fun. And then you have the smattering of the younger kids that were fresh into town that were like, I'm going to make it big and I'm going to be a star. Yeah. And so, and everybody had their own different, maybe one was a dancer or one used to be, I even took a class that had a Rockette in it. Like she was an active Rockette still on the roster. Just things like that people, a little bit of everything, former athletes or...
She wasn't doing it just for kicks. I couldn't resist. I was like,
I saw something building in you.
All right. Yes.
But yeah, they're just quite a an interesting variety of people that take these classes, or sometimes just people who want to do it for fun because they always loved acting when they were in school, or they might have even gone to school in a drama program, but they went the conventional route and just got a regular job, but they still love doing theater and
people
acting.
doing like improv classes just for business skills.
Yes.
To improve public speaking and confidence, and just to translate it to their work life.
I believe Second City has a class specifically for that. I've never taken it, but it's to help people who are introverts or people in the business section, because they have to get up in front of a room and do their presentation or their PowerPoint presentation. And that way it helps with their nerves, and they can get through their whole thing without, feeling like they're going to have a panic attack.
I know, sidebar, the Young Artist program here at LA Opera, part of the training for the young artists is they do a whole Second City improv, and then at the end of the year, they do a showcase with all the opera singers where they do opera-themed improv. So it's like comedy and singing all together.
It's so funny because I think, so many people think of the acting class, especially out here, people who have just, like, very young, just coming out, like, going for, where it is much more of a variety of people, and you don't realize it. I used to do coverage for scripts for this company, the Writer Store, and my view of it, I assumed every script that was sent to me, I'm like, this is some 30-year-old hipster in a coffee shop. And then I got this one script, and it turned out, I was able to find out through some back and forth with my boss, the person who scripted was like, I don't know, this guy in his 50s, and he just wanted to try, and it's like, and it made me think of everything in a less judgy way too.
Well, the other thing with acting too is not every role is going to be filled by a 19-year-old kid from Iowa.
Right.
But you know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking people showing up on a Greyhound bus, and it's
right at the station, right by where you live.
Right where I live.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that section, though, and I hate to stereotype, but if you think of the typical beautiful young girl who's come to Hollywood, blonde, blue eyes, Barbie, beautiful. There's not 5 of them. There's 5,000.
And they were all the most beautiful person in their town.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were literally all that in a bag of chips back home. They were always the star of the show or the, Miss Rodeo, whatever. And so everybody tells them, you should go to Hollywood, or you're such a great actress, or you can sing so beautifully. They move out here and they're like, there's 5,000 girls in this line that look just like me that are signing in for this audition. And then, but there's different categories. Like I said, I'm the mom. The mom with 2 kids who can go grocery shopping or drive a car. So I'm in a different category than them. They have a lot more competition.
That's true. Yeah.
They have a tougher time of it, and I'm also in a different place where the rejection I could care less. Doesn't mean a thing.
You have the stuff of your life. Yeah.
Doesn't mean a thing to me. They emotionally have to be more prepared for that.
I'd imagine that helps you succeed more because the pressure is off.
There is none. Yeah. My
that's the gate.
My monthly
have a stable life all set up, be emotionally and financially secure, and then make a go at it.
My electricity bill and whether or not I eat is not dependent on my acting career, whereas for them it is.
Yeah.
And they walk in the room going, I gotta book this, or I'm not gonna be able to eat.
And you just said something like all the Sean about how they were always like they were the best in their town, and then they came out. And I found that just in people I've known kind of casually. There was this one girl who came out here, a friend of a friend, and she was a good actress, but she had it in her head because of where she came from. They're like, I have to be Julia Roberts. I have to, and anything else was failure.
Yeah.
And she brought that to everything she did, and it made her miserable. And I remember somebody once said to her, and I think this was good advice, and I think a lot of people have trouble seeing where they fit in this industry. And they said to her, did you ever think that maybe you're not Lucy, you're Ethel? And this devastated her. But if she had been able to embrace that idea, she probably might have been able to be a working actress and happier. And now she's, I don't think she moved to...
Away.
She's away.
And Wendon married
Yeah.
a high school sweetheart.
Yeah, but it's true. I become friends on Facebook or other social media platforms with these people, and all of a sudden, 2 or 3 years later, I'm moving back to New York, or I'm moving back to West Virginia, or I'm moving back to wherever they were originally from, and I'm like, oh, they didn't make, or they gave up, or maybe their parents gave them an ultimatum, like, you can try for 3 years, and then after that you have to get a real job, or I'm sure a lot of parents have hold something over their kids' heads like that. But I feel bad because I'm like, oh, they gave up, because you want them to keep trying and give it a good go.
You do regular improv shows. You do what's the one you do again called?
It's called the HIT show, and it stands for Historical Improv Therapy.
So what is explain a little bit? I mean, we've talked about it. Explain a little bit.
So the premise of the show is we pick a year in history, and all of the topics revolve around what was going on at the time. And the two hosts of the show act sort of like therapists, and we bring people up on stage and we talk to them about possibly what they were doing at that time, like what their job was, what their family life was like, and then we do improv scenes around that information plus the current events of that time.
Okay. What's a recent one that you've done?
The last one we did was actually Greece, like the times of, gosh, I can't remember what year we officially picked, but we were all dressed in like togas and.
What was it? It was like 403 BC or something, or cause you do this with Laura McGee.
Yes.
Is in the troupe.
For a lady pilot for our listeners.
Not to be confused with a lady bird.
It's true. Oh, that's great.
I think this month we're doing like 1920s.
So it'll be like a flapper thing. That'll be fun.
And then Laura researches stuff that was going on, so that we have a little bit of backstory that we can pull in terms of like anything from politics.
Prohibition.
Exactly.
You are also an avid motorcyclist.
That's right.
Now, we are not motorcyclists.
Oh.
I'm
going to convert you by the end of the night.
I once rode on the back of a scooter.
Were you in Rome with Gregory Peck?
I know, right? That's how it feels. But no, I was in Glendale with a coworker who says she drives like a scooter to work every day. And there was this happy hour down the street. She's like, I'm going to take my scooter. And I'm like, I was just going to walk. She's like, why don't you ride on the scooter? And at this moment, I'm like, I have to ride on the scooter now. Otherwise, I'm like, but I'll tell you what. I was slightly terrified.
Yes.
I was holding on. I put a helmet on and everything, but I was holding on to her, which also I thought was weird. But I'm holding on to her. And it was fine whenever we were going straight. But whenever we turned, I'm like, how are we not? Are we about to? Like, I braced myself every time we turned. So clearly, I'm not a motorcyclist. How did you get into riding motorcycles?
Well, the story starts in high school. My best friend's boyfriend had a motorcycle, and a handful of his friends did. And so think back to the 80s, the crotch rockets. Yeah. And also it was before the California helmet law.
Every bad boy in every 80s movie. Yeah.
Yes. So we were always on the back of the bikes with these guys, having fun. They were really safe. I never felt like I was in danger. And I actually look back now and think, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't wear a helmet.
Yeah.
And, my parents are, the over my dead body kind of parents in terms of owning a motorcycle.
Or a horse, clearly.
Yeah, or a horse. Yeah, any type of vehicle.
That just made you want to ride a motorcycle more. So
fast forward many years, and I at the time I didn't have any money to buy one or have insurance, and eventually I met my husband. He rode a motorcycle, but I didn't know that when we met. And then long story short, I ended up getting a motorcycle not too long after we got married, took the MSF class, which is the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. So you take the class, it's a couple weekends, and it waives you from taking the test at the DMV so that you don't have to do the driving test
the figure eights.
Yeah. And that was, what year is it? So that was 18 years ago. So I've been riding for 18 years.
Okay.
Still have that same bike? For you
No,
upgraded
I
since
don't
then.
have the same bike. My first bike was a 1988 Suzuki Katana, which just again think crotch rocket, the plastic
Yeah.
bikes. And now I have 3 bikes, and oddly enough, they're all Hondas. I have a Honda VFR, which is again the plastic sport bike style. I have a dirt bike, which is a Honda CRF 250X. And then we also have a Honda Shadow with a sidecar attached.
Ooh.
So I'm that crazy mom who takes her kids to school in a sidecar sometimes.
And they have adventures. You have a little the goggles
Yeah,
and the
I
helmet
would- if-
and a scarf billowing in the wind.
That's what I would totally ride in the sidecar.
I'll give you a ride.
I'll ride in the sidecar.
I want to get footage of you in the sidecar.
Yeah, that'd be
motorcycle.
great, but I am going to dress like that. Like you just described.
definitely.
I'm going to have... Because here's the thing. I don't think I could ever, like, ride a motorcycle. I'm too neurotic. My behavior on the scooter was, worrisome. But I understand... Like, I get it. Like, I get, like,
You've seen
the
Easy
feel of
Rider.
it. Well, yeah. I love
It's
Easy.
it's not for everybody, but there is something about it.
There's an extra freedom.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
feels like
you can see everything. There's not a box literally in your way.
Give me
that's-
my box.
Yeah, that I can see the sun, the moon, the trees. You can smell the pine trees as you're going through the mountains. There's just a heightened sense of awareness, and it's actually relaxing. Even though you're concentrating, if you're like in a city environment and there's a lot of traffic and your life depends on you paying attention, it's still relaxing, and you are in a different place, and you've forgotten all of your work issues, or that you have 500 emails. It's just you on your bike. I actually listen to music when I ride, so it's like I'm in my own movie with my own soundtrack playing.
Do you ride a motorcycle as your primary form of transportation, or do you take a car?
Did you ride a motorcycle here?
I did not,
okay.
because I don't ride every day because of having 2 kids. We do need to have a vehicle.
Like groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. Those Costco runs.
Get complicated when you're on a motorcycle.
You load up the sidecar.
I definitely used to ride more before kids.
Okay. And you went on a trip to New Zealand?
Just recently, yeah. Over the December holiday.
And you rode around?
Yes, we rode motorcycles around the South Island for 2 weeks.
Is
I
it
saw the pictures. It was amazing. Like, it looked beautiful.
It is. I highly recommend, whether you're in a car or a motorcycle, save your pennies, go to New Zealand. It is stunning. Every inch of it was beautiful that we went
go
through.
hang out in the Shire?
Yes.
Hobbit.
So did you just drive and then you would camp at night, or were you staying in places?
We actually stayed in hotels or B&Bs, and then we stayed with another motorcyclist for 3 days at the South End.
Okay.
We basically met people online. We met somebody who lived there.
Bringing this back to acting, does this skill come in handy ever for roles and things like that? Because I'd imagine there are whole shows like Sons of Anarchy and stuff where people just always ride motorcycles.
Believe it or not, I'm actually shooting a commercial tomorrow where I'm riding a motorcycle.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Can you say what the commercial's for?
I think so. It's Subway.
Oh.
There, I've said it.
There you go. That's pretty cool. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for it.
I'm gonna be
But they got that Sons of Anarchy spin-off show that's coming.
I've already been sending emails about that. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, of course, you're on it.
This is good. This is good. I like that taking all these. You're taking a whole bunch of you're combining a whole bunch of things you love, which is just the best way to be if you can.
Yes.
Are you deeply involved in motorcycle culture? Because that is its own thing, or are you just like someone who likes to ride?
Yes and no. I'm definitely involved. I help with a national motorcycle charity that's called Ride for Kids.
Okay.
Honda is the national sponsor, which just happens to be in Torrance.
Oh.
And I know a lot of people that work at Honda or used to work there. We have our meetings there. We raise money for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, and at the front of the ride are sidecars, and in the sidecar are local children that are surviving a brain tumor. So when we go on the ride, they're at the front of the parade, so to speak, and get to go on a ride in a sidecar. So I'm definitely involved. with motorcycle events and some culture. I don't know if you've heard of Babes Ride Out, but that's an all-women's motorcycle weekend in Joshua Tree. I've done that a couple of times.
That's where you got to go meet women late. You just go to the wrong places.
I don't think maybe that's it.
Well, there's that fear of motorcycling.
That's going to be the one problem.
You'll be in the bid sheet for the whole time.
And then 2 years ago, my kids and I actually rode across the country with a group for what was called the Sisters Centennial Ride. And it was the 100-year anniversary of the two Van Buren sisters riding across the country. So in 1916, these two girls, they're actually descendants of President Van Buren.
Yeah.
They wanted to try to prove to the government that women could help in the war effort, because it was definitely going to happen. Like they knew it was coming. And so they got Indian motorcycles, rode across the country, and you have to think back to road conditions of that day.
No highways.
Yeah, a lot of dirt roads.
Gas stations are non-existent.
That's what I thought. I was like, I know how hard it was for us to ride across the country in terms of making sure we got gas when we needed to. How did they get gas? And then they got stuck multiple times. They broke down a few times. They got arrested multiple times for wearing pants.
What?
Yes, because back then, certain areas, it was illegal for women to wear pants. So
It's crazy.
yeah.
So did your kids ride, or they ride along?
Yeah,
with you?
They were in the sidecar.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was about 65 of us that did the whole country.
Wow.
But then we would pick people up along the way that could join us, and then we rode together as a group on the last day across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Do your kids want to ride? Like, are they looking forward to? Is this something that they're excited about?
They already have dirt bikes, so they already do. Yeah.
So you'll let your kids have the motorcycle.
I've infected them.
You'll let the kids have the motorcycle.
Yes.
But do you let them have ponies?
No. That's more expensive.
That
than
horse will kick you. That's dangerous. The motorcycle doesn't need food, hay, and
or vet.
So you're involved with so many things. Tell the people, before we go, tell the people where they could find out more about you, these charities, everything you're doing, the improv shows, just you in general.
Well, I have my own blog about motorcycling. It's called motorcyclemama.org, and people can connect with me. They can subscribe to my blog. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm in the process of working on starting a YouTube channel so that I can also have short videos about my trips, or products that I like or don't like, and or different little travel tips when traveling on motorcycle. So definitely people can reach me at motorcyclemama.org and find me. We'll be friends.
And the show is at the monthly show. When is that?
It's at Second City Hollywood, and then our next show is actually next Thursday. I believe it's February 9th. I don't have a calendar in front of me, and it's
8th.
Today's the first.
Yeah.
And it's at 10 p.m.
Okay. Excellent. So you want to talk some pop culture topics with us?
I would love to.
Good, because you had literally no choice. The Grammys.
I'm waiting for a guest, by the way, to be like, F this,
No.
I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Just walk away from the interview.
It might happen one day.
Yeah.
So the Grammys happened, and the Grammys are the award show that I usually watch the days after.
Yeah.
Like, I'll sit down and watch the Oscars, and I guess that's mostly because it's less about the award and more about the concert that's going on. Now, Sean, during the Grammys, you texted me very excited.
I was really into it at
You
the
were
moment.
like, my take is going to be, this is the best award show. And I'm like, well, mine is going to be certainly the opposite. But why were you so excited at that point?
There was something. Okay, so just to give a roundup, I enjoyed the theatrics of it, the theatricality, the musical performances. There have been some very historic musical performances that occurred on the Grammys. I think I texted that to you after the Kesha musical performance, which was really good. But then, and I was like really into the show at that point. But then, as I started thinking about it afterwards, and reading about it, or listening to a podcast break it down, I was like, oh, that really wasn't such a good show. They just put on a lot of razzle dazzle. They only actually end up giving out like 8 awards, which is strange because the Grammys tend to nominate. It has the most categories, so they tend to give out the 75 other awards at like 2 a.m. at an undisclosed location the night before the award show. But yeah, it has the most potential upside, I think, for award shows, more so than the Emmys and the Golden Globes and the Oscars.
Because it's more of a show.
It's more of a show, and you don't know. When it's done well, it can really create some unexpected mashups and combinations and moments. So the potential is there, which I think is what makes it the best possible. Let me amend it: the best possible award show.
Look, I'm a movie guy, so I'm always going to be the Oscars and stuff like that. I was in and out of the Grammys. I was in the middle of rewatching Lost at the time for another project I'm doing. But I was in and out of the Grammys. Early on, I turned to it 3 times. And the first 3 times I turned to it, Sting was there. Sting. And here's the thing. I got nothing against Sting, but this seemed like there was a lot of Sting. I swear to God, I turned it on, Sting was presenting an award. Then I turned it back later, Sting was in a comedy skit.
He was in
James
a subway
Corden.
with James Corden.
And Shaggy.
Yeah.
And then I turned it back later and Sting was performing and I'm like, what is...
Well, Sting and Shaggy have like an album coming out together.
Is that really?
I was just going to say that. Those random appearances, especially if they've been gone for a while, it's because they have something coming up.
Okay, because I was so... I didn't stick with it long enough to put all that together. I just turned it on 3 separate times, and Sting was on all 3 times.
What were the conversations that were involved in getting Sting and Shaggy together? I find this even more bewildering than Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, because at least she's a classically trained singer.
Yeah. So, Monique, did you watch the Grammys, or at least watch clips of the Grammys?
I didn't watch that night, but I watched clips. Historically, for me, on most awards shows, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I watch the next few days, just because it's easier to condense it all into little bites for me.
Yeah.
And so I watched the Kesha performance, which was very moving, although I didn't know who most of the people were standing with her.
She had I don't remember the lineup.
I knew Cyndi Lauper immediately, but the other ones, they said a star-studded cast with Kesha, and I was like, I don't know.
And that's the other problem the Grammys
Okay,
have.
let's be honest. Music is the one pop culture thing that I feel like I feel like I will always know what the hot movie, TV show, people like that. And I see this with my father because he watches a lot of the same TV that I do and sees the same movies. He keeps up with that. But music, he fell off a cliff on, and I see myself falling off that same. Like, I'm very much like...
You're not into Cardi B?
I barely know who Cardi B
Simpson?
is. I barely know.
SZA? Come on.
The only reason I know who some of these people are is because they are musical guests on Saturday Night Live. I would say the only new singer, and I mean like a singer who's like of the last like 5 years that I listen to is Lorde. I like Lorde.
Okay.
And that's...
Well, good thing she was at the show.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. I mean, say this. Lorde nominated for Album of the Year, that melodrama album. I don't know if you've listened to it. It's fabulous. It's phenomenal. Anyway, this album deserved of a nomination. But Lorde was the only person nominated for Album of the Year that they didn't have perform.
Oh.
She was also the only woman, I believe, nominated for Album of the Year.
Well, Jay-Z didn't perform, but he declined to perform. He was asked.
He was asked to.
Because Kendrick Lamar performed, Bruno Mars performed, and who was the other one? But yeah, so they...
And Bruno Mars ended up winning.
Winning, yes.
So Lorde herself basically like threw a lot of shade at the Grammys, because then the Grammys were like, well, we didn't have enough time, which is total bullshit, because that show's 4.5 hours long.
Well, they had enough time to bring Sting on multiple times. They had enough time,
exactly.
They had enough time for Elton John, who I'm pretty sure has performed at every single Grammy since the beginning.
And again, why is he performing? Because he's having a farewell tour.
That's going to last 3 years. And Miley Cyrus came out looking very matronly, like in a ball gown, and sang along with him.
But it's kind of bullshit Lorde didn't get to perform, because she clearly wanted
also,
to.
Sting sang a song that's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Which I think was... There were some like really head-shaking hard pivots, though. So, for example, they brought out someone to introduce U2. First, they were talking about the Dreamers and immigration, and then because U2 are not Americans, they understand the plight of the Dreamers, and then they cut to Bono and The Edge performing on a barge, like somewhere in the Hudson River. And I saw someone tweet, little do people outside of New York not know that Bono and U2 are always on a barge performing, floating around Manhattan.
U2's been together forever. Is The Edge just though, like, he's got to be over Bono, right? I mean, at this point, Ed Sheeran won. This was controversial too because he beat a whole category of women, right? He beat Pink, Lady Gaga, Kesha, somebody
for
else.
like best pop something or other.
Yeah, and even my mother was annoyed by this. My mother said, "Why didn't they give Lady Gaga an award?" I'm like, I don't know, Mom. I guess I like Lady Gaga,
the
too.
Grammys also has an older, the issues that the Academy's been trying to fix. Yeah, the voters. The Academy has been more proactive in making a more inclusive voting base and a more diverse voting base, where contrast that with the head of the Recording Academy after the show in an interview said something along the lines of, well, maybe the women in the music industry just need to step it up. And,
That's in this exact moment that we are currently in, that's the most tone-deaf statement.
I was like, has he not been watching TV recently?
Yeah. Oh my God, did he not listen to any of the music of any of the female nominees?
And they even the Grammys have a process, especially for like Album of the Year, where it goes through like a vetting committee before it goes to like the wider voting base. And this is how someone like Ed Sheeran didn't get nominated for Album of the Year, because they did try to put in some safeguards so they don't end up with like a backseat change.
Anti-Ed Sheeran safeguards?
No, but they just needed to try, because, they would have burnt down Madison Square Garden if like Ed Sheeran had won over Kendrick Lamar. Because Album of the Year also, that's when you end up with like Steely Dan winning for, their album over more deserving nominees. You had once again the Beck Sea Change when he beat out Beyonce for Beyonce.
Like Beck, I grew up listening to Beck.
You are his demographic.
I am his demographic. I don't know. Grammys, I have trouble getting into them.
Yeah, they seem to be getting more and more out of touch with what is popular music.
Was there anything that you said the Kesha thing you watched? Yeah. Did you watch other stuff? Like anything else? Any other takeaways you have from?
Well, my thought is similar to yours, that in terms of like the Oscars versus the Grammys and what the content is, because there's so much music and so many categories, and it's hard to keep up. It's easier to keep up on movies and TV. So you get lost in the sheer ocean of music. And so to me, it's less interesting to watch a show about that.
Well, let me ask you, have kids who are, of music consumption age. What kind of stuff are they into? Do you listen to their music?
When we're like in the car, we typically only listen to music in the car, and it's just safe to stick to the top 40, generic radio stations in Los Angeles.
But are they in control of the radio, or are you in control of the radio?
I am. Okay. But I also like a lot of, 70s rock, a little bit of everything. And they actually know the words to a lot of old songs. Yeah. My son actually knows all the words to Welcome to the Jungle.
Nice.
I've seen it.
You'd be like, listen, kids, Tusk is the best Fleetwood Mac album, and that is not up for discussion.
You know what? But you just said old songs and Welcome to the Jungle, and this makes me feel so old.
It does.
But it's funny. When I was a kid, I would drive around with my dad, and he would listen to the quote-unquote oldie station, and it was a lot of... it was a lot of 50s, 60s stuff.
And Motown stuff, probably.
And I know all the words to all those songs because I drove around and heard them with my dad. And now I turn on like the oldie station and you hear like Guns N' Roses. And I'm like, wait, but I was listening to that when I was in grade school. And it's like, oh shit. Like, that's about the same amount of years as when I was riding around in my dad's car now.
Yes, I was offended the first time the oldie station started playing 80s music. Yeah. And I was like, I am not that old, damn it. I was like,
they play 90s music sometimes.
Yeah. At least you guys had the experience of having parents that introduced you to, quality music. The only things we listened to in my mom's car was Dr. Laura Schlesinger and the Barbra Streisand 4-cassette Rose collection and assorted soundtracks. So if you ever
I'm so sorry.
needed a straight 9-year-old that knew the whole Funny Girl soundtrack by heart, I was your guy.
All right.
Well, my one saving grace is we splurged and took our kids to see Hamilton.
Okay.
Before the holidays, and so we've been singing that in the kitchen.
Okay.
Like we
Nice.
we have an Alexa,
Yeah.
and so they're constantly going, Alexa, play Hamilton, and then we'll be singing the songs while I'm making dinner.
I feel like it's a very like almost not the right music, but it's almost like a big chill thing going on in your.
By the way, this is a total sidebar. I'm waiting for the class action lawsuit of women named Alexa suing Amazon because their lives have been ruined.
Yeah. Moving on.
That's fine. I think the Grammys got
Yeah.
enough.
The
Grammys
They got
are
their
dead.
due.
We're gonna do a
Oh, by the way,
whole
James
show on
Corden.
the
James Corden.
Oscars, but-
Get out of here with James Corden.
Okay.
Toys R Us.
Toys R Us.
I don't want to grow up.
I'm a Toys R Us kid. Do your kids even know that song?
Probably not.
So, here's the thing. I saw that all these Toys R Us's were closing, and we were talking about how, we currently are in a big lament about bookstores. Like, we're going to miss bookstores. when
Amazon's
they're-
bringing them back.
That's so. It didn't occur to me, but toys probably have a similar thing because your kids can probably oh, I want this thing. I'll just go on Amazon or Alexa, order the blah blah blah.
She's listening. I don't need to have things
talk
show
to
up
her.
in my mailbox. It's going to end up with a blah, blah, blah. It was a novel I've never heard about before.
It started because even as an adult, like I was recently in London, and I went into Harrods.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to wander this whole department store, but I said, well, I'll go through the electronics section. Oh, I'll walk through the toys section. Because even as an adult, like in college, I'd go up to like FAO Schwartz just because it was like
Yeah.
fun place to
Yeah.
go. I
They
mean,
have stuff that's very unusual that
Yeah.
your regular toy store wouldn't have.
So, as
A
a
900-pound teddy bear.
as a parent, I mean, will you bring your kids to toy stores? Like, do kids still want to, like, because I would imagine even as a kid, I would want to see the physical
Yeah.
thing more than order it. Or
Yeah.
is that not happening?
No, we go to Toys R Us occasionally. There is one in Torrance where we live, and then we go to Target more. But they still get gift cards for their birthdays or holidays, so they want to go and physically see it, look at the box, and look. And also, I'm trying to teach them to be a little savvy about shopping, and like, okay, well, look at the price. That's how much it is. Or we could try to go online and see if it's cheaper. Or
Spoiler
whatever.
alert, it is.
Yeah, and but. My son is really into Legos, so he loves to go look at the Lego sets. So
Okay.
it's still about holding it and looking at it.
And like feeling the weight of that box. And
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
as a kid also, you're more like you get physically excited about the thing.
Well, here's the other thing. As a kid, also, like right now, if there's something I want, and I'm like, well, I could be a little patient for it. I'll just order it and wait a couple days for it to come, or if But as a kid, I would never be able to.
They want
do
it
that.
right now.
Yeah.
That money is burning a hole in their pocket.
My
They
friend,
want
there's a Toys R Us here on La Cienega. And my friend lives right around the corner, and I go, is it a problem that there's like a Toys R Us around the corner? She goes, you have no idea. She's got 2 kids, and they're young, like under 5. She goes, every time I need to go to the Smart and Final or the CVS, it's a whole fight because they see the Toys R Us. That's all they want to do is go in there.
Sean, am I crazy to be worrying about toy stores?
Well, one thing about Toys R Us is they were humming along. The reason why 500 stores are closing is because they were bought by a private equity firm that loaded the company up with a ton of debt, cashed out a bunch of cash in the form of dividends, and were like, oh, no more money, need to close stores. So this is the product of financial engineering. It's not that Toys R Us was like suffering its death knells. It's just,
But I mean, there used to be more. There used to be KB Toys.
There was, that closed.
The FAO
Yeah.
Schwartz I mentioned before.
I would be worried about toy stores, but then you're going to end up with these like little artisanal toy stores where they're going to be selling, handcrafted wood blocks from trees that the
If I
hipsters
have
grew.
kids, that's what I'm gonna get them, artisanal toys. I would never do that to my children. Do you have any as a kid? Do you have any fond toy store memories?
I have this one toy that I had that there's this funny story about it as well, because it was a Christmas gift. I wanted the Barbie motorhome. It was this behemoth toy. It was literally a GMC motorhome.
Yeah.
And I occasionally still see them on the road, and I'm like, that's that toy, man. And it was super expensive. And again, going back to my parents, very consistent. We can't afford that. We can't afford that. And it magically showed up on Christmas Day, ginormous box under the Christmas tree.
And you knew what that box was.
I knew. And I ripped it open. I was so excited. And I don't know how many days later, my friends were over. And we were at the age where you kind of stop believing in Santa Claus. And they were telling me, they're like, Santa didn't bring that. Your parents bought it. And I didn't know this story. My mom told me years later. So she's walking by, listening as we're talking. And I told my friends, I go, oh no, I know this is from Santa because we can't afford this. Because my parents had brainwashed me.
That's right.
That we couldn't afford anything. So I was still convinced that Santa existed in that.
That's a good way to also have it convinced that Santa, because that makes sense. You were using
You're just having
logic.
cognitive dissonance. It's like, no, there's no way.
There's no way we could afford this. Because I saw how much it cost at the store.
Santa's got rich parents.
I used to love going to a toy store. I got a lot of He-Man. I was a big
Yes.
He-Man fan,
yeah.
so I had a lot of He-Man action figures. And I'd always get excited to see like a new one that came out and be there.
Many
for so-
faces, because he has many faces.
I had
you hit
many
it, and it would
faces.
spin around.
I-
I
it was
remember
great.
that. It
Or
turned
the He-Man with the
Yeah.
battle action, you hit it.
Yeah, then I had Skeletor battle action too.
Skeletor.
I had 3 different versions of He-Man and Skeletor.
Who do you think of-
Then when I was getting into like video games, like the original Nintendo, I remember you had to like get like you had to pull
Yes.
like a piece of paper or whatever.
Because they lock that shit
Yeah,
up.
and you'd go up to the counter, and then they,
Oh, yeah.
and that's how you paid for the game.
And the games would be like $30 and $99. I'd be like, I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
I used to.
It's amazing.
You guys
Actually,
didn't have Atari?
I didn't know. The first system I ever had was the original Nintendo.
I
had the
didn't have a
Atari.
system until I got a Super Nintendo after like years of litigating my parents on this.
But you know what? I had so many original Nintendo games, and yeah, they were a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell were we? Where
Well, they
was this
still are
money
now. Now
coming
these games
from?
are like $80. They used to be like $30. Now they're $80.
I wonder what happened to all my games. I had cases of them. I walk around with the cases.
And the golden Legend of Zelda
I had it. Okay,
cartridge.
my
And that shitty Link to the Legend of Zelda 2.
well, first of all, anything with Link in it can't be that bad. Secondly, I had I'd wanted Nintendo, and I was worried I wasn't going to get it.
You were the only child of divorced parents. You were getting it.
I didn't know, but here's what happened. So, I was divorced parents. I would spend Christmas Eve with my mom's side of the family, Christmas Day with my dad's side of the family. And it turns out I was getting Nintendo, my dad's side of the family. But the night before, I was given a gift, and I opened up, and it was The Legend of Zelda. And it was like, and I'm like, why would I be getting this if I'm not getting Nintendo? So, I mean, it was a real tell.
Yeah.
But then I remember we were at my aunt's house Christmas Day, and my father set up the Nintendo there, and we were playing Nintendo all day, and then I never stopped for years.
Growing up, my next door neighbor, their dad had been a Vietnam sniper, and he sat on the couch like 20 feet from the TV to play Duck Hunt. It was boom, boom, boom. But they had a big like 50-inch projection TV, which was like, but he just sat there. I remember Don,
Like
just on the couch, one-handed, with the gun, just murdering.
100% kill rate.
100% just murdering ducks.
My dad and I were very competitive, and we would play, Atari when we first had Atari, and he would get really into it. And he's like, his body's moving, and he's like, getting.
You're trying to move the controller now. Yeah.
And then when I was in college, so I'm the youngest, so I was the only one still at home. The other two are already, married, and so now there's computer video games.
Yeah.
And we would play games and beat each other's high score. And I'd go to college, and I'd come back, and he'd be in the doorway going, raise his eyebrows, give me the tilt of the head, go check the high score. And so he would spend
A whole semester.
hours hours trying to beat my high score before I came back from college, so that I'd have to go try again.
That's so funny.
That's great.
When my last my one like Toy Story member or Toys R Us story. Every year for my birthday, my mom's first cousin, who at the time was not married and didn't have any kids, she'd pick me up in her convertible. This is like the 80s and early 90s, and we get to go to Toys R Us, and I could spend $20, and it was like Aunt Rocky's taking it. I would look forward all year to like my Toys R Us trip, and I'd always get like the brainiest like toy there, like some sort of puzzle that I really liked, or like some really complicated board game that no one ever wanted to play with me. Yeah.
So, it's winter. And it means a few things. It means it's cold on the East Coast.
I was going to say our brutal winter here.
It's beautiful here in Los Angeles. It's been particularly beautiful, too.
I'm bummed. I think I only wore my sweater once.
But no matter where you are this year, we have one common enemy, and it is this fucking flu. Every year we have a flu, but apparently this year it's worse. We don't have flus like this. This flu is a nightmare. People have been coughing for weeks. I have coworkers who have been out for weeks. They come back, they cough for a month. My mother has called me in a panic. Every day she calls me. She's like, I'm so worried about this flu. I'm so scared of this flu. Should I get a flu shot? Is it too late to get the flu shot this year? Then she called me one day. She said someone in her school district died, and she claims it's from the flu. I can't touch anyone or anything. I can't look anywhere. I like looking and touching. I like things, but I can't, you don't want to shake anyone's hand. Yeah. You don't want to, but then you get paranoid. You don't want to use the hand sanitizer because then you're more susceptible to germs. I don't know what's going on. I am down in vitamin C. I've gone so crazy. I'm drinking 8 emergencies a day. Now, I know people are saying that I should have gotten a flu shot. But this year's flu apparently is so strong. It's stronger than a flu shot. It's a super flu. It's a Trump flu. The government keeps shutting down. The government's going to shut down again. The CDC has to do something about this flu. But they're not going to have any money to do anything about this flu. And that's why this year's nightmare Captain fucking Trips out of the stand flu, or this week's enemy of the podcast, go fuck yourself. I'm pretty sure this is how The Walking Dead started. I'm pretty sure. Is it just me, though? Or does everybody... I mean, maybe they don't... maybe in Europe... Well, you're not in the horse community now. Maybe they don't get the flu. But, I mean, everyone I know has got the flu. I haven't gotten it. I am terrified. I am living in fear of this flu.
I'm terrified to talk about it because nobody in my family is sick. So I don't want to jinx us.
You don't want to like the sheeny eye
after this.
But I'm claiming that our trip to New Zealand inoculated us. I crossed the date line, missed the germ fest, came back, and maybe we're gonna squeak through without any problems this year. But I also have kids, and they're just flipping germ magnets.
Kids got jam hands.
Oh my God.
Well,
they touch
you're lucky
everything.
You didn't catch like hobbit pox or something down there.
True. I have to check my feet every now and then. Yeah.
I get the flu shot every year, and I didn't get the flu. Yeah, get it every year.
I never got the flu shot.
Get it every year.
I don't get the flu usually.
That's how I maintain this physique.
Really?
The flu, yeah. I also get I get pneumonia shots too.
I feel like the flu. Do you get a flu shot?
I rarely get it. I used to work at a hospital, and we were forced to get it. But even when I didn't have to get it, I rarely get the flu.
Is it an old wives' tale that by getting the flu shot you get the flu?
No. It's a crapshoot. So every year they pick the 4 or 5 strains of the virus that they think it might be. So it's just luck of the draw. You don't know if the shot you get is going to be the flu that year.
But the shot itself will not cause you to get the flu because it's not like they don't use dead cells anymore.
Dead flu.
Yeah.
Right.
It's they're inactive. So and I've asked doctors before and they said no, you can't get the flu from the flu shot.
I was fine until I got stuck in dead of winter in a snowstorm in Mississippi and was putzing around in 10 and 15 degree weather, getting wet and snowy and getting my car stuck in a cemetery.
But you didn't get
it was the Walking Dead flu.
Yeah, no, I got the cough. I got this like chest cough that. And then, staying up late and then going to Vegas. None of this helps.
Whenever
Vegas is another flu as well.
Yeah.
Whenever I travel, whenever I get home, like I got sick when I got back from London.
Yeah.
Because I'm in that horrible, like, tube of disease.
An airplane?
Yeah.
Well, all those other people keep breathing.
They got to stop.
That's why you got to fly private. Just you and the
There you
pilot.
go.
Pilot who
Laura-
happens to have the flu.
Laura should, next time you got to go to London, Laura will fly you.
Yeah.
And just bring a mask to give to the pilot.
Yeah, exactly. I also think, though, sometimes the reason I feel sick when I get back from a trip is not the flu, but like an environment thing. Like after Christmas when I came home, like I felt like I never got sick, but my throat hurt for a while, and it's like, oh, like I'm back in LA.
Yeah. And then
Dry.
also in Vegas, the casino's all recirculated air. It's like dry.
You can smoke cigarettes.
And everyone's smoking. It's
Yeah, well, if you're sitting there gambling all day, you gotta smoke.
disgusting. I can't deal with it. It's that stupid city.
Well, I always like to end on a weird note. And speaking of airplanes, this one's disgusting. United Airlines passengers found themselves in a fetid? Is that the word?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Fetid?
Yeah.
Fetid?
F-E-T-I-D. Oh, this is an SAT word.
A fetid situation when their Chicago to Hong Kong flight made an unscheduled landing in Alaska. Here's the disgusting part. After a man had smeared feces all over the plane's bathrooms. Officials said the man had dirtied a couple of lavatories on the plane.
Couple. So
Yeah. So he was moving from lavatory to lavatory. Now,
with repeated bowel movements of substance.
or was he saving it up? Was he like, did he have like a fistful of, or did he have a pants full of?
Just dip it in there like a monkey with a diaper.
Wow.
He also tried to cram his shirt down the toilet. How did they address this on the plane? You think what did they do? Like, how do you deal with that?
I don't know, but I can tell you those flight attendants did not sign up for poop scrubbing. They probably have to bring in a. There are companies that do biohazard
Cleaning
removal.
crew, yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
Holy
even
cow.
confronting the guy, it's like, what the hell are you doing?
It's poop smeared hands. He's flailing around. It's flinging on passengers.
This reminds me of a Toys R Us story. My friend in high school, John Deerfield, and then I think this might have taken place after high school, at least I had graduated at the time. He worked at a Toys R Us briefly, and one day, he went into the Toys R Us bathroom, and someone had smeared shit all over the place. And he was like, what is this? And they figured, I guess someone had just left, and they figured out it was some, like, punk kid who did this, and they chased him down, and the whole, like, all the employees gone, and they made him clean up all his shit, and John got to watch him as he scrubbed his own shit off the wall. Yeah.
Well, I like that they referred to the flight was diverted due to a disruptive passenger.
That's to say the least.
Well, did they say anything about, like, did he have any mental issues?
I think you must have, like...
To be rubbing feces all
I mean,
over
because
the
it's not like
place.
it's a hobby, like an artwork. Like, he's like, ooh, I can...
He works in...
That's his medium.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, this would be a good wall to spread my brown feces.
Yeah, we're stifling his
No,
creativity.
but I love that he went to multiple lavatories, so he just...
Was he like running down the aisle? You can't catch me. No.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's
From the front of the plane to the back of the plane.
At some point, and then I guess at some point and then he was trying to shove the shirt down. Did they have to break into the lavatory? I mean, I've been on some bad flights, but I got to admit, nothing this bad.
And then how do you tell the rest of the plane? Attention, ladies and gentlemen.
I hope you brought your coats. We're in Alaska.
We'll be landing.
Yeah.
Because they got to stay overnight. There's not, that plane's not getting, and this is like a Hong Kong, Chicago. That's probably a 787 or a huge Airbus.
That's a lot of people.
That's like 500, 600
You
people.
think they stayed overnight?
It depends when they were and what the situation was. How long,
I get that bathroom clean fast.
No, if they had to come in and FAA regulations, if they had to decontaminate the bathrooms, who knows what they're...
They should send another plane for these people.
You're in Alaska, and it's a big ass plane.
I know.
It probably would have been faster to clean it than to find another plane of the right size and then fly it there.
And all the luggage?
Yeah. And
they had to land in an Alaskan airport that was capable of handling
a big enough
plane like that. So they would have gone to like Juneau or
Anchorage.
Anchorage, pretty much it. You know,
That's
not
it.
flying
Those are
on
the only place
they're
I
not
can think of.
landing on the Ketchikan airstrip. You know,
with smoke signals.
yeah,
And on the Ketchikan airstrip note,
yes.
Monique, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
One more time, tell the people they can find you.
They can find me at my blog, motorcyclemama.org.
And you're also on Twitter, right?
Yes, Twitter, Facebook.
What's your Twitter handle?
It's Monique Filips, Motorcycle Mama.
Okay.
Had to think about that.
I think we're following you on Twitter.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sean.
You can find me on all forms of social media at the Sean David. I haven't been tweeting too much lately, but you know, I'll get back on that.
Does your handle have at the end?
No.
You said Sean David
At the Sean David. Yeah. That's
Everything he says for the rest of the
the
episode.
episode. It's all part of my handle, including this and this too. Oh, you speak English? No, only that first sentence. And this one explaining it. You got to be kidding. Cat? So that's an old Family Guy cat.
Yeah, I remember that.
You don't need to see Miyamo S. Bryan, just Miyamo Bryan.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. I don't have any shows scheduled. I just did a show this past week. But I'm working on a new podcast.
Excellent.
We've already got a couple episodes in the bank.
Can't wait to hate listen.
Yeah. It's about the TV show Lost. So if you like that,
And what's it called?
No Love Lost.
Ooh.
It's about me who loves Lost and my co-host Megan Salinas who hates Lost, and we watch it and yell at each other for an hour on a podcast. Good times.
Yeah.
On the show next week, Sarah F. Kami. She is a writer. She writes for the show Dice that just got
So
canceled.
like
no.
today.
It's going to be a short podcast.
But she was.
She's a comedy writer. She's a comedian. She does stand up. She's a roast battle champion.
Yeah, we're gonna find out what that's all about. Maybe she'll roast us.
She will gladly roast us. She's a
cruel person.
no. She's cool. She's a good friend.
All right. And then the week after that, we're gonna be
Taking a week off.
Yeah, but the next show after that's gonna be
The big one.
our favorite one of the year, our Oscar prediction show.
You want to tune in for that one.
Yeah.
This is a tough year.
It's a very tough year.
tough year.
Although I have some thoughts.
I don't know, I think-
I might be doing something crazy with my picks.
Did you see that the smear campaigns have already started? That The
Yeah.
Shape of Water is plagiarized.
Yeah, and there's this whole Lady Bird, real women have curves controversy too now.
We'll have to discuss that.
Yeah, where they're saying like she stole this scene from this movie, but not really.
Okay.
Anyway, Monique, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for the Little Sean Podcast, I'm Sean David.
I'm Will Link.
We're finished.
We're finished.